Rhonda and Casey, welcome to the Organized 365 podcast.
Awesome. Thank you. I am so excited. How are you feeling?
Absolutely. Glad to be here. A little nervous, but so looking forward to it.
Well, thanks for representing the male figures that listen to or are in the audience of women who are listening to the Organized 365 podcast on repeat.
Yes. Happy to do it.
So you heard Rhonda's story just a couple of weeks ago on the Organized 365 podcast, if you scroll back, and now she has brought Casey with her, and Casey came to Cincinnati to the homeschool convention. Mm-hmm. And I got to spend some time with him, and we had a couple of meals together. We talked about so many different things. So this is going to be a little bit different of a podcast than the regular Wednesday podcast. We're actually doing this on Friday because I want to really talk about, how organization changes throughout our lifetime, and to talk about a couple who have gone through an organizing journey and what they've seen throughout their married lives together. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's go.
Sounds good. Okay, Casey, you don't seem like a willing participant, and this was partly your idea. So I just want to clear the air from the beginning that I am not forcing you to be on this podcast.
Those
are true statements. I'm glad to be here, and I am a willing participant.
Oh, and you're going to know how willing he is when we dig into the questions, because he's took some notes of some things he wants to say.
Awesome. I'm going to work on not talking very much. But I really wanted to frame this in the beginning because you have been married a long time. Mm-hmm. Before you had kids, you've had kids. Some of your kids have launched. Some of your kids are launching. And so you've seen a long, multiple decades together. And so I wanted to kind of start and open the floor to what has the division of household labor been like in your family before you had kids, when you had little kids, when you were homeschooling, as the kids have gone? I'm just going to open the floor for you guys to have that conversation.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. So just a little shout out for ourselves. We celebrated our 28th wedding anniversary over Memorial Day weekend. Whoop, whoop. So that's fun. Casey and I actually sat down yesterday with some of your pre-questions that you wanted us to talk about. And as we were talking about these things, the division of labor in the house, we're putting percentages to it. Okay, here's something you got to know. He's a civil engineer. My master's degree is mathematics. So we like numbers. We like data. So I know our kids, poor things. I mean, they were doomed from the beginning. So as we're doing this, I said to him, wait, we need to step back and put Lisa's terminology to this. Makes sense. So you kind of take it away from our conversation.
Again, we've been married 28 years until when we started, and we're looking at your questions that you'd sent, and we're talking through that. And it was really great just to see how we have changed, how we have grown through the years. Mm-hmm. Because when we got married, she's a great cook. And so she doesn't like to do dishes. So we early on, we said, we're about 60-40 when it was just the two of us. As far as housework. And when I say housework, the tasks of daily living, the cleaning, again, to use.
Don't you love it?
To
nice work.
I know.
The household maintenance, that's all me. A home organization, definitely early on, and still today, mostly Rhonda. But again, so I'm going to break it up. Before kids, we said 60-40. Rhonda did 60%. I did 40%. And before kids, we both worked.
We were both working. I was either teaching or in my master's program, which I was still teaching as an assistant.
And so then she had this idea that we would homeschool. Well, I guess we had kids.
We had kids.
Obviously, we had to have kids.
And we just stopped doing all of it. That's what I said to him. It's after kids, 0% and 0%, because we were just keeping our head above water.
So we had our first two boys very close together, and we did that on purpose. And at that time, my job allowed me to work 4 10s. So she's still working. She's working part-time at this point. I'm working 4 10s. So I took care of the kids on Monday because I'm off work. I
would do like a 12-hour day on a Monday. I would go in at 7, stay till 7. My job was very flexible. It wasn't like time sensitive. It was, at that point, I was working in an office doing educational research. So this was after master's degree. I'd graduated. I think I told you in the last podcast that I finished my master's coursework while pregnant with my first child. And I thought, oh, I'll write my master's thesis while I'm on 8-week maternity leave. That'll be so easy. They just sleep, right? Didn't happen. It was a full year and a half later before I finished my my master's thesis. So I graduated. I was doing work in educational research in our teacher professional development office that our university ran regionally. There were 5 of them across Missouri at the time. It was like 1999, 2000-ish.
Yeah. So then we make this decision to homeschool our kids. There's a 7-year gap in between our sets. We have 2 boys, 7-year gap, and then we have a boy and a girl. So during that time, Rhonda quits her job. She's stay at home full time at that point. I'm working. And so then, to look at the percentages, our tasks of daily living, we said we would really be that about 75-25. Rhonda doing 75. I did about 25. Cleaning, all Rhonda. I did very little cleaning.
Sure.
To this day.
He would do dishes and laundry.
I do dishes. I do dishes. And I can do some laundry. She doesn't let me do her laundry, but she's afraid I'll mess up.
He's good at folding, putting away sheets, towels, socks, and underwear.
Tasks. That's it. Household maintenance, still 100% me at that point, but 100% Rhonda on home organization. And that's kind of where we go up until our kids get old enough to really pitch in and help. And during that time, again, there's just a lot of survival, a lot of piles of stuff. And so
a lot of moving the piles.
Yeah, a lot of moving the piles. So anyway, so I would say where we're at today, we have 2 kids that are graduated. Our older boys are gone out of the house.
They're 25 and 23.
And then we're going to have a senior and a junior. So we're about to work ourselves out of the home education job. We're going to be unemployed in that area, which was the goal. and they're thriving. They're doing good. But now, just to get back to what we were talking about, we would do, I'm looking at my notes. So task of daily living, that's 50% Rhonda, 20% me, 30% kids.
Because he does work out of the home. He is gone at a job, at an office.
I'm really gone 11 hours a day because I have to commute. So I leave at 7 and I get home at 6. Mm. So that's just the way it is. Cleaning, 50% Rhonda, 10% me, 40% kids. Let's see, I still haven't figured out how to clean anything yet, or I just want to.
I have seen you clean a toilet.
There you go.
It's fine. It's good.
Household maintenance, that's still me, a bunch. Rhonda does 10%. I do 70%. But I definitely bring Kidder and Chloe in. They do about 20% of that. And then the home organization, I've got 80% Rhonda, 20% kids. I'm really about a 0. So,
he loves it when it's done and when it's maintained. He will. Okay, so you kind of throw yourself under the bus just a little bit on some of this, but he does know how to clean. He is a team player. I'm not locked in the house barefoot and pregnant, whatever. But when we look at some of the maintenance things, he is a rock star. He fixes everything. And I mean, almost everything. Up until recently, we didn't hire anything. All car maintenance was on him, except, fixing the car. Yeah. If we had a refrigerator, it wasn't go buy a new fridge or call the guy. It was figure it out and let's fix it.
I'm an engineer.
You're saying you actually know what those manuals are for?
Yes.
Oh, mine are gone. I got rid of mine.
Yes. So
and you YouTube
he fixes everything. Awesome. We love to project together. Every home has either been remodeled or added on to, that sort of a thing. We love to team. We're not quite as enthusiastic about it now as we were in our 30s and 40s, but we still do love a good project, clean it out, paint a room, put up trim, whatever it is. So when he says 100%, it's really true. In fact, at one point, my older boys were complaining because they were helping dad with the household maintenance projects. And I said, let's sit down. I made a lesson out of it. So I said, here's how much it would cost to call this repair guy. Here's how much it would cost for the hours, da, 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 da. Your dad saves us about $700 to $1,000 per month when you average it all out. So if you would like to fund this, we could hire somebody to do it. It's like, can't we just hire somebody? So, just to bring that up. And we've realized that's his skill set. He's really strong in that area, and I'm strong in other areas. And obviously we are bringing our kids into all that we're doing as much as possible, even if they complain.
And that's, hopefully we'll get to that later, but just so I don't forget, that's one of Rhonda's giftings, is that seizing the moment, an educational moment. And hey, this is what's going on. Because if it was, I wouldn't have brought in the whole, hey, if this would have cost, the plumber would have cost us $250. I wouldn't have brought that aspect into it. It's just simply, hey, here's a task to get done. And I'm teaching my kids how to do the task alongside of me. But she's like, no, let's stop and look at this from an educational standpoint. This is what this really brings to the table. And she's just great at that part.
Thank you.
I love the mathematical aspect to it. Like, I know I always hire it out, so I know how much this is costing. There definitely is a mathematical component to, especially the maintenance. As I'm starting to do my research of the literature for my PhD, and the first literature review I'm doing is on the definition of housework, and how has housework been defined in all of the data that you see that's come out of academia. You're going to be shocked at how it has not been defined. Anyways, there is a theory. There are a lot of theories out of there, and one is called doing gender. And it actually says some tasks are female tasks and some tasks are male tasks. And I can't really speak much more beyond that because I haven't done enough research, but maintenance is always in the male category. So it is interesting that one is one that you've said that you do 100%, or, you and the kids do it. Another thing I love about, boy, you guys did your homework for this podcast. I love how you added in the percentage of the kids. Now, I've been very vocal about the fact that I hire out the help because Greg and I aren't going to fix it. I come from a long line of people who don't know how to fix things. We're salespeople. We are not engineers, that is for sure. And I also have said, my kids didn't have chores because school was too hard. I mean, it was too hard for also to add chores on top of that. And so there wasn't any and the kids do this percent. So I love hearing the reflection of the percent the kids do, and in each category. That is just so awesome. Thank you for taking the time and sharing all of that.
Yeah, it's great. Something I always joked with Rhonda is the best way to take an hour project and turn it into 3 is to get, especially early on, she was always encouraging, hey, get the kids involved. Yeah, so that swing set that we're going to put together now, instead of being 1 hour, it's 3 hours because I've got
a week.
Or I've got the 5 and 7-year-old involved, and there goes your tools and your parts. But all of my kids, they've changed tires, they've changed oil, we've replaced alternators.
Ceiling fans.
We've done it all. And
we added on a kitchen.
When we built our house.
Yeah,
that was super cool because each one of my kids laid the hardwood flooring in their own room.
Wow, so how cool is that?
Yeah, that was fun. We didn't just let them loose. They had supervision. Yeah, that's been a really great aspect. And I will say that it would have looked different if my kids had been in a traditional classroom setting away from the house, especially once you start adding on extracurriculars, whether it's sports or clubs or instruments or singing or theater, whatever. It would have probably looked a little different.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is, home organization is a category of housework by my definition. And Casey, you said that's always been Rhonda's domain. So we're going to talk about that. In the literature reviews that I have done, no one identifies home organization in housework. And anything that is not visible work, like auto, sometimes auto maintenance is considered part of housework in definitions, but never home organization. And I find that often in the literature reviews that I'm doing, much of the housework is what can you see, like cutting the grass, doing the dishes. Vacuuming, though, isn't mentioned. And I'm like, I find it so interesting that cutting the grass is mentioned, but vacuuming isn't mentioned. And it's because you can't really see it after you see the pile of dishes go away. you quickly don't see the vacuuming. And home organization is something that you don't necessarily see it, but you know it when it's not done. And Rhonda was very transparent in her podcast episode about how it was a hot mess, which, I mean, first of all, children equals hot mess. I mean, it just is. So I'm wondering, Casey, what you have seen in Rhonda over the last 28, 30 years of her getting organized, trying to get organized, being organized. What has that looked like? And then what was it like when she found Organized 365?
And yeah, absolutely. Because one of the things that I really like about what Organized 365 has done is you just use the term visible, where you've identified the task, those invisible tasks, and you turn them and you make them visible, because that's something that we've now brought into our conversation about these invisible tasks, because they all take time. And, well, where's all this time go? We have all this time. You're home all day, Rhonda. How can this happen?
Why is it the same pile of laundry on the couch? There's still a pile of laundry on the couch when I get home, and dishes are everywhere. And
so I think that's a foundational thing that you have done and obviously helped Rhonda with, is that identifying the invisible task. So, throughout our marriage and the home education experience, Rhonda has tried some other home organization ideas. And, I guess what that looked like, it was, buying a book and reading this book. And, I wrote down buying a book in containers is what it seemed like what happened is there would be this book that one of her friends would tell her about. And, she would read this book, and we would always end up with a bunch of containers, and stuff would get piled up somewhere. And then we would just take that pile and move it to this other room, and then then it would appear in this other room. And then I'm like, nothing ever left the house. I mean, it was like, what are we doing? And so, and we tease and we joke about it, but there was a real frustration though with Rhonda. I was thinking about this morning, that maybe an analogy for that would be like, you have a goal of losing 20 pounds. And so you start exercising and you start eating differently, and you lose 5 pounds. And 6 months later, you're still at 5 pounds. And you get frustrated and you just quit because you haven't seen any results. And so I think that's where Rhonda was with these other organizing ideas, I'm going to call it, because yours is not an idea. It's a lifestyle. It's completely a different change of thinking. But that's what I saw throughout, and it just throughout our life, and it's really caused an ongoing sense of brokenness or what's wrong with me? I'm a failure. How come I can't do this? And that's a big deal. When you're constantly battling that self-talk of I'm broken, I'm a failure, and that's why I love what you do. And that's why I love Organized 365, because I have seen a dramatic change in my wife, in who she is, because of her ability to process, make decisions, and keep things in order now. Excuse me, that she's never been able to do in the 28 years we've been married. So
I would say that what you described is like spinning our wheels, just moving things from one place to the next. Yes, they might be in order, but it's just a shifting of the stuff, and you keep running across the same stuff, that was a great description.
Yeah. So that's a big deal.
So what is it like now in your house compared to 5 years ago?
Complete bliss and happiness. And
perfection.
There's no papers out of order.
We never fight. I never misplace anything ever.
But no, seriously, it is. It's definitely so much better. I mean, it's not perfect. I mean, it's still a work in progress, But for example, one of the things that we're very social. We entertain a lot. We have people in our homes a lot.
We don't entertain. We're hospitable.
Okay, whatever. Same thing.
We don't do a dance or anything.
Oh, well, we don't dance. But anyway, so we have kids kids groups over, stuff from church. But so what would always happen with that is, okay, small group is coming over Sunday afternoon. Small group is, 30 people. And so you have all this paperwork on the table and you have these piles here and piles there. So what do you do with that? Yes, exactly.
Shove it off into a box.
And you
That's what laundry rooms are for.
you put it in the bedroom and shut the door. Now it's fixed. It's gone. Well, something that we realized that happens through that is you lose stuff. There's a bill that doesn't get paid. There's paperwork that got lost because you just stuck it all in a box and shoved it in the room, and then you dealt with it later.
Or somebody's keys or wallet or.
Oh yeah, all the things.
Yeah.
And so
we don't do that anymore.
No, we don't do that. And we have a routine now, and Rhonda has helped, help teach me. And, I'm learning the Sunday basket. I have my own Sunday basket. Rhonda hands me my pile and we do our paperwork together, but it's really getting to where it's a team effort. And again, she's educating me on how it works. But
I would say one thing. I want to make sure it doesn't come across like everything is perfect. It's all fixed, blah, blah, blah. No, we still have stuff happen. I just dealt with my home office and I wrote a note down saying that my home office is becoming a room-sized Sunday basket, so I needed to deal with it. And so I did. There was papers, there were duffel bags, there were, all the stuff that got dropped and left there. But we have a way to deal with it now.
Yeah.
My definition of organization isn't everything in a perfect manicured bin with, lined up on the shelf like a store. It is, we have places for things. And if we want to put things away, they have a place to go. And if we want to find things, we know where to find them. Otherwise, our house can still get cluttered, laundry, kids stuff, books, papers. But it's not swipe it into a box and shove it in the bedroom for 6 weeks later to find. It is, let's pick these things up and put them where they go. Or,
we have a place like,
right.
I have readers. I normally don't have glasses, but in order to be able to see up close. So I have 15 pair of reader glasses that I lose constantly. I feel for people that have readers. I've had great eyesight my whole life. All of a sudden at 50, I can't see up close now.
Right.
So, but that's a great example. All these glasses are laying all over the house. Not in, no, Rhonda, they go in this one spot in this drawer. So anytime I'm looking for glasses, I go, it doesn't take me 10 minutes.
He's laid the rest of them all over the house. We have enough that even if he goes to there's going to be some in the basket at some point.
But things are in a routine. They're in a rhythm. But I kind of wanted to back up just a second. I had wrote down the why behind it. Why did this work for Rhonda? And I think it's so important. What worked for Rhonda is because what you've taught her, what Organized 365 has taught her on the why it works for her, the decision-making process. You helped Rhonda understand her own mind and her own shortcomings of why did I just keep the 17 boxes of elementary and junior high schoolwork? And she's like, how come I can't throw that away? And so it's that's your validation that you did something. It's your, you were successful. This is your kid's work. Okay. And you have taught her to say, okay, throw 16 of them away. If you need one as a reminder, okay, fine, keep the one, but throw the other ones away. You don't need them. And so that part was so good. And Rhonda is very visual. And so the Sunday basket, the slash pockets, the colors, those all speak to her. They have meaning. Obviously they have meaning because of your program, but they have so helped her with her decision making. And it's changed, so much about her, and I say so much about her, just the empowerment. I talk to her all the time about she is more confident as a woman today than she was 2.5 years ago.
Wow.
And that's priceless. So
wow.
I was pretty confident. I don't know, but I have more, I have more like validity to the confidence.
Yeah.
It's not false confidence.
Maybe it was unfounded.
That's it. That's the word I was looking for.
Well, and I think,
Yeah.
yes, I was so glad that you followed through on that and said that was the validation of the fact that she had done a good job being the teacher of her kids.
Yeah.
And I think that once your spouse acknowledges that's why you have the thing, it's so much easier to get rid of it. But if you have a spouse who's not saying, oh, okay, I understand why you kept this because it's validating that you homeschooled our children and that you're a good mother. And I concur with what Lisa is saying. Now Rhonda could get rid of those because now you will say, you are such a great wife and mother, and thank you for raising our children and what you have done. So your affirmation and acknowledgement replaces these boxes of things. And as I'm listening to this, I'm like, man, this would be amazing if Greg would come on the podcast. It's never happening. Just so you know, it will never happen. First of all, he will never let my head get that big. He thinks it's his job to make sure that I do not like, no, we do not need to acknowledge anything that's happening over here. We don't want it to get any bigger than it already is. But also, we keep stuff to remind us of what we want to remember. But if there's another person that then will take the place of that stuff, you can remove the stuff. And I hope there are many, many more couples that want to come on the Organized 365 podcast, because that's how we change the narrative. Like, women can't change the narrative on our own. Like, we need men and couples to come on to help change the narrative. But it is the, sometimes Greg will say, I come from a long line of sarcastic people, and Greg is also sarcastic. So he'll say something sarcastic. I'll be like, what I heard you say was, and then I'll frame it like positively. He goes, yeah, that. So sometimes you just have to be like, what I heard you say is, I would like you to get rid of these bins because I know that you are a fabulous wife and mother and that you have poured into our children. And your spouse may just say, yeah, what you said. But what they mean is, I am very grateful for what you have done. I don't know how to verbalize that. That is not how I was raised. That's not what was modeled to me. But yes, of course, I think you're an amazing wife and mother. And thank you for everything you've done for our children. It's just not, we haven't really seen that modeled before.
Yeah, I think that, to some things, I'll say some things that have changed in Casey's version of declutter is anything that anything I don't see value in, trash it. Like, I don't even care. Burn it. It doesn't have to go anywhere. I was so much the frugal. We got to donate it. This family could really use it. Daddy's like, get it out of here. I don't even care. I see no use for it. So in the beginning, not so encouraging. He meant well, because he wanted me. He saw me struggling with the stuff, and his heart was to help me eliminate stuff. And that in his mind was helpful. So through what I have learned, I have been able to verbalize then to him. And when I had this aha moment about, we'll just use the school papers example as like, oh my goodness, that's why I'm holding on to them. It was a podcast you did. I don't remember who it was. I think it was a Wednesday podcast. I cannot find who it is, but I need to listen to it again. And it was a light bulb. And I shared that with him. And the more and more that I am sharing in what I'm learning, the more he has aha moments too. Like, yes, oh, that does make sense. That is why, I think I shared in the other podcast, we've always been super intentional with each other and with our kids about learning, about having knowledge about who you are, how you're made, strengths, weaknesses, who I am, how I'm made, and then in our kids, because when we have information, we learn. When we learn, it gives us understanding, and with understanding can then come grace. So I know his strength is not scrubbing the shower or the toilet, because detail can, in that realm, he feels like he's wasting his time. It's too much detail. However, I know his detail gifting in our cars and how he keeps them running, and he keeps them so we can have them until they hit 200,000 miles,
Amazing.
And we're not paying all the mechanics all the time. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that interesting though, Lisa, is that I think I've always been very supportive of Rhonda, and, even with the homeschooling stuff example but when she heard it from you, well, it was like, oh, I can throw that away, or I can get rid of that, because I was, again, she was one to donate something to the thrift store, or we're going to sell this. And that was a great intention, but putting it into action was such a, a struggle.
Mhm.
And so I think
So it'd be in my car for 6 weeks, and
drive
then
me crazy.
we'd have to go on a road trip. And guess what? All the crap comes back in the house. Go on our road trip. All the crap goes back in the car and lives there for another month. Oh, we have to go somewhere. Bring it all back. Seriously, I am not joking. So many times that happened. Did drive you crazy, but
we'd get in an
it
argument.
doesn't
I'm
happen
like,
anymore.
just throw it away. Just pitch it at $25, but somebody could use these jeans. And I'm like, I love the heart, but it's causing stress and friction in our marriage because it's still in the van.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
But you've been able to frame that in the podcast when she hears that about the homeschooling papers and
For the permission of stuff in the closet.
the
or
closet.
whatever.
I love that conversation whenever she was going through the closet, and I'm getting rid of these. Can I say the size?
I don't care. Sure.
I'm getting,
I'm not a size 8 anymore.
There you go.
It's fine.
I'm pitching the size 8 jeans because they're just, because you educated her on that, is those jeans are talking to you and they're not saying nice things, and so she got rid of the size 8 jeans. And so that's just been just one area after another, or again, where you get rid of that negative talk and it's more positive on a daily basis, and you end up with a more positive, confident wife out of the deal. So that's what 365 has done. That's a long, drawn out answer to how our home looks today and how things are going.
All right. Well, we are like not even halfway done with our conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and close this one out here as part 1. And we're going to come back for part 2, which we're going to dive into Friday work boxes, homeschool work boxes, and marriage. Anything else you guys want to say about the household and organizing the household before we go to part 2?
I would just say to anybody that is listening to podcasts or has any of the programs or courses from Organize 365, share with your spouse and your kids. They don't have to sit and listen to the whole thing. I like all the stories that you tell, and you're talking to me. We're having a conversation as I'm going about the house. Him, not so much. Give me the bullet points, So share those things that you're learning about yourself. Be vulnerable, be transparent. And you'll be surprised at how they will eventually, it might not be immediate, but you've said this before, Lisa, they're going to see results, and then they'll start asking questions. And when the results really started happening, and that felt like it was probably a solid year, it's like, whoa, hold on, this thing you're doing, because he has no idea what I paid for All Access when it was called All Access. I just did it. Oh no, I already told the story. I bought it for my mom, took it back. So I would just say, be transparent and share. And then what would you say to the
absolutely,
the husbands?
because and get involved and ask questions, because as you're seeing stuff going on, it's like, hey, what is going on? You're seeing a positive difference, and be that encourager, because it's not easy, and you don't want them to fail. You want them to thrive in that home organization world. And really, it's not just home organization, it's your whole life. It's everything. Mm-hmm. This is just your office. But get involved, ask questions, and be a part of it. And you'll learn stuff too as the husband. It's helped me as well.
All right. We'll be back in a couple of days for the rest of the interview with Rhonda and Casey. All right. So you're joining us back here with part 2 with Casey and Rhonda, who are sharing with us how Rhonda got organized in the last 28 years of marriage with Organize 365. We're getting ready to segue from organizing the house and just running the household and understanding the different kinds of housework and division of labor into what this looks like in homeschooling and Friday work boxes, their marriage, and what they're seeing amongst those of us that have been married for 28 years. But before we do that, Casey, you said you had more that you wanted to share in the last podcast episode.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak a little bit on what Organize 365 has done with Rhonda in decision making. Before this, Rhonda really struggled with decision making. And I use the word, she was paralyzed. She would just struggle so much, even on the little things of, getting rid of the size 8 jeans or the donation stuff. It's okay, do I donate it? Do I just throw it away? And so 365 has really helped her go through that process of prioritizing those decisions. And okay, I know what I'm going to do with it, and I make the decision to move on. It doesn't take so much of her mental capacity of constantly having this juggle in her head of, well, do I get rid of it? Do I save it? I might use it. All of that stuff that she would bounce around. So that's been a huge thing. She sets up her rules that she was talking about the other day. I have my rules set.
Telling you.
And so here's the rules.
I'm an A student.
You are
An A student.
So yeah, so she sets up her rules before she goes through, organizing the closet or going through the kitchen, or we just did our game closet the other day with homeschooling. We have an entire, I don't know what that thing is, 8-foot closet for games. We had all kinds of games
And art supplies.
Yeah. So anyway, but she sat down, her and the kids, here's our rules, and boom, got it done. So before, that would have been like a 3-week process or maybe 6 months, and the games would have been out. And what are we doing? We're saving them, we're throwing them away.
Oh, wait, people are coming over. Shove them back in.
So this is a great segue. The first story I remember about you, Rhonda, is you were sharing with me, you're watching the replay of the Friday Workbox Planning Day. So I'm going to let you share the story because I want to hear it again.
Okay. So it was last fall around the end of September. So it would have been the planning day that was, in the beginning of September for quarter 4. And we're on a road trip. We're headed home. We loved a road trip. Fortunately, I do not get car sick. And so he drives, like he is the driver. And I've got my portable Sunday basket. I've got my binder. I've got my laptop. I've got my pins. I'm surrounded by office supplies. And so I propped the phone up and we're listening to you on the Friday Workbox Planning Day. And he's just sitting there listening, and I've got my goal planner, but then I also had a blank notebook. And I said, okay, because he is in a stage of, he's going to be retiring at his current job. And he and one of our sons have started another business and he'll be able to jump into that. So I said, okay, I want you listening to this regarding the business and where you guys are with things. And so we're listening a little bit. And for this particular one, you kind of summarize, we were going through each of the pocket colors. So, okay, pink. And you were talking about pink and the ideas and the dreams and the leads and da, 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 da. And he went, wait, hold on. What's pink? Pause. So I'd pause. And he's like, what's pink? I said, okay, pink is your dreams, your ideas, your aspirations, how you going to advertise, how you bringing in people, how are,
And so that's where I'm like looking at her and I'm like, oh, we're spending way too much time in pink.
He said, we're way too much time in pink. Okay.
We're me and my son, because again, we're just starting this business. But whenever you buy, equipment and you start a business, it's good to plan, it's good to dream, but there's a practicality piece.
Right.
You need to bid jobs and go to work.
So he has said,
oh, we're in too much
pink. He said, okay, hit play. So I hit play. So we get into purple. And purple is like the current projects and, what you're doing, what's bringing in the money, da, 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 da. And he's like, wait, hit pause. What's purple? So I talked to him a little more about it. And he's like, yes. So we need to be sure we're tracking our customers from start to finish. Our billable hours is what he said. And on and on.
In the engineering world, you're all about billable hours. You need to make sure your engineers are productive. I'm the director of an engineering group at our local utility. So, you want your people, being busy, being productive.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at that from the job standpoint and like, okay, we've got to have, our purple, we've got to do some more billable hours. We got to get that cranked up.
Yeah. So I forgot to mention, we did the snapshot page before we started. And so we decided he was sunsetting, but promotion ready at the same time, because he's leaving a job and then entering into, and that's kind of where I am too. I've discovered with homeschooling, I'm sunsetting. And then with my business, I'm, and I know I'll be involved in the other business as well. But so then this is where it really got good. Hit play. Now we're on blue. And blue is your people, your meetings, your professional development, your training, how you got into, you were talking quite a bit about the cost of meetings. And he went, hold on. And so I hit stop. He goes, do you realize what you are getting here. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, this is not just working through logistics of a job. This is business training. She is teaching you how to run a business, how to manage people. And he said, I've been a supervisor for XYZ, years. I've never gotten this kind of training. So I'm going to let you kind of take that and share your perspective.
And I assume other people that are listening to the Friday workbox stuff, that they understand that they're getting that is your transparency with talking to people about the home organization and business organization. Your blue/pocket. That's where we got. I'm like, hold on a second. You started talking about that, the cost of these meetings, and at my job, we have meetings all the time. They drive me crazy. We have very non-productive meetings, and so that's something that I took away just from that one drive home. Was I started having that conversation with my people at work. Like, okay, what is the cost of this meeting? What are we getting? Why are we doing this? Because it's just not productive. It's a waste of our resources if we're not accomplishing something. So that was a huge thing. And again, that just the business training, because your transparency into how you're running your business and the challenges that you have and how you found solutions to those challenges. It's amazing. I was like, holy cow. So she's not only teaching you, on the organization piece, but she's also giving you business 101, how to practical advice here. So that was a big aha moment for us driving back from Tennessee.
Yeah. It was great. And then we got into green, of course, and he's talking about you were talking about your checklist, your to-dos, your financial, and he's like, oh, we need a better system. And you actually took action business.
So 2 actionable items out of that road trip for our, our startup business, me and my son is, so I went home and we created a standardized bid form for our jobs. So, all this stuff that we're going to track all of our materials, labor, some miscellaneous expenses, and
you made a spreadsheet.
So we ended up with 2 spreadsheets out of it. One, so we're bidding jobs, and then one on just customer, our interaction with our customer, the scheduling piece, all of the stuff we ordered, how much time we actually spent. So we bid it for X, and we thought it would take us 3 days to do it. And okay, so after the job, we bill it all. Okay, how many days did it take? How did we do? So, those were 2 things that came out of that 7-hour road trip from just listening to that one podcast. That went home and put it to use.
And so at that point, I was already going through the certification program.
Yes.
I wasn't done yet. I was supposed to go to Florida. Hurricane happened, quick pivot, ended up in Arizona, which I'm just telling you would not have happened. Previous me would have locked up and nothing would have happened. For me to be able to pivot and leave in less than 24 hours, I mean, that just is a testament, honestly.
Really
I say it jokingly, but it's true because I was ready to go. I had pre-done everything. So that's a side story. But what this did, I had, what it did is it then validated my journey to becoming certified. And then he was like, can you get workbox certified? Like, is that a thing? He's like, you need to do that next. Like, this is amazing. That's what you need to do next. So I did. So having that support.
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, as we talked about previously, as she's learning stuff, she's teaching me, and we're applying it, not only in our home and our marriage, but we're applying it in the launch of our new business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for sharing that story again. Now I'm going to be able to listen to it on replay. Because I know that I have a ridiculous amount of business knowledge. I was listening to a podcast and I realized that I've done something in my business that will make it extremely sellable in the future. And I just did it on intuition. No one ever told me to do it. And I said to Greg, it is crazy the things that I have been able to figure out in business with no MBA and no one helping me. Like, I don't know why. But also, the more I learn about business in general is, yes, Procter & Gamble is headquartered down the street here in Cincinnati. And many people work at Kroger and Procter & Gamble and GE in Cincinnati. But most people actually work at a small business. Most people. work at a very,
Yes.
very small business in the United States. It's like 83% of companies are small businesses. It's a crazy percentage. And I have helped a lot of people start businesses, and I have been successful in a lot of different businesses. I always tend to make money in whatever I'm doing because I'm organized. And so through direct sales and through helping other people in businesses and through growing my own businesses, I figured out the invisible work that everybody's doing. And I made a common language through these colors so that CEOs and startups can talk to their employees and their operations people through these colors. And they just use the colors in the reverse order. And, you know, I could easily, and it would be so much easier if I just went out, sold the business, and I was a coach, I'd make a fortune and I'd be done because I understand business at that level. But I said early on in Organize 365, I would not stop doing home organization because most people who get good at home organization stop doing home organization and they move to business organization because that's where the money is. So I have now stayed in home organization for almost 12 years, and now I'm getting a PhD in psychology so I can explain home organization at a level that everyone's going to be able to understand it, because I feel like this is what I'm uniquely called to do, even though the other would be way more profitable. And like you've said, other people will actually look at the meeting mastermind that we do for $997 or planning day, which is $250. And they're like, this is like a $10,000 course. I'm like, I know. And because I don't charge it that way, I think people think like, oh, well, it's no big deal, or she must really not know what she's talking about. That's not the case. You're getting $10,000 worth of value on those planning days. And I know I for sure could charge that and people would pay it. But it's just not the business model that I'm growing. But you really are getting the highest level training you possibly could get.
Yes, very, very good stuff. Because again, I've been doing my job for 27 years. And I've been in management now for 12 or 15 of those years. And yeah, there's just conversations that haven't, training, I say conversations, but there's training that I haven't had through my own job, and wisdom and that you're able to speak to. And really what helps with the colors and the language that you use is the why behind it, is explaining, hey, this is what you're doing, breaking it down. So again, you continually make the invisible visible, because that admin stuff, my son, for example, that's not his gifting. He doesn't like that. He's definitely in the the purple. He's the billable hours, and he doesn't want to do the follow-up admin side of it. Well, if you don't do that, you're not going to get paid.
Yep.
And
you're not going to know whether you're profitable or not. All you're doing is getting the job done. You're finishing the task, but you have to be able to bid it. You have to be able to bill, and you got to be able to analyze that data to say, okay, are we covering all our overheads, all of our expenses? So
yeah, I would say that
great.
What you're doing is you make it accessible. You're making it accessible. And if you stopped being in the home space, I mean, everyone who works at all the jobs in the businesses that you could go and do all this business training, they all go home somewhere.
Right.
And that's where it all starts or ends, and so when, Casey describing that things are not as chaotic, house is not perfect. It can get out of hand and get cluttered and, whatever at times, but it's manageable. We have a place, a way to reset, a way to go back to a foundational place. Therefore, when we leave our home, we are better equipped because we're not like buried in our home.
Well, you've taught her to create.
Don't leave the home space.
Yeah,
Is what I'm saying.
I'm not gonna.
Don't leave it.
Taught Rhonda how to create a cadence to our home. The Sunday work basket, the Sunday basket. Okay, Sunday we're doing this stuff. There's a cadence to it, and so I know after that I'm going to have a to-do list of paperwork to do, bills to pay that I take care of. Again, we share these things, but definitely don't leave that home organization space, because it truly is a need. It's a I'm going to call it a ministry. It's a business, obviously, but you're impacting people's homes and you're impacting people's lives
and relationships,
marriages, all of that. So it's so
And
much value.
I think it's the operationalization of the work that is happening in the home. First, it's the understanding there is so much work, and then the operationalizing of it, because even in Organized 365, I had already created the Friday work box back in 2006. I already understood the 4 kinds of work. I taught this in direct sales. When I was growing Organized 365, after I got to years like 6 and 7, I got very frustrated because I wanted to do a lot more pink and purple and pink and purple. And I had to spend so much time and money investing in the blue team and creating the green systems. And as you grow and are successful in business, you will have to continually go through and completely refine the green systems that you are running your business on every time you hit a 3 or a 1, as the guy who started Infusionsoft will say, that it's 100,000, 300,000, 1 million, 3 million, 10 million, 30 million, 100 million, 300 million, a billion, 3 billion, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. At all of those points, you need to completely do your system. So I said to my lawyer the other day, I said, hey, have you seen this to play out, this 1s and 3s? And she went back and she thought through all of her clients. She was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly when it happens. So this idea that you need to continually up level the operation part of your home as you go through different phases of life matches what businesses are doing as they're growing. And no business wants to slow down and stop taking orders and redo the systems and redo the contracts and get the new website. But if you don't, you have so much operational debt that you end up just spinning around. Like you had talked about at home, you just end up spinning and you don't make any progress until you stop and you invest in the operations side of the business and you invest in all the systems, and then you could scale to the next level. And then you do it again and you do it again, and you do it again. And that's what we do at home in each of these phases of life. As you go from one phase to the other, you have to declutter, you have to organize, you have to up level your skill set. And if you aren't continually up leveling your skill set and your knowledge and your ability to organize and be productive in the next phase of life and understand what the next phase of life is going to teach you, then you're spinning with past learning and trying to do it in a new phase of life. And that's why it's not working.
Yeah. And even I would break that down even more, Lisa, with your mini years for the home. You know, your summer and your fall, you have to stop, because we think you've said this so many times, and it's proven true in our house anyway, that with I don't have time to plan. I don't have time to plan. Well, if you don't have time to plan, you end up wasting so much time and resources and energy and sanity and sleep, because it's the very thing that if you take the time to do this thing that you feel like you don't have time to do, it saves you time in the future. Like it's that whole, your future self will thank you for taking the time to sit down and do this. Now, this hit Casey, I'll tell a quick story. So he wants to be productive. He wants to see it. So he's the one that you show me you've mowed the yard and I will know you're productive. When we were first schooling, he's like, show me the paper that they produced in their day and you've shown me that they've learned something, right? So it was that kind of thinking. So when we sat down last fall after home planning day, I said, okay, it was last summer, we got to do our calendar. And we literally did every single solitary game and practice with locations and addresses and times and people.
Wasn't it amazing though?
Oh no.
When you were done, when we were done.
He was like a caged animal up and pacing and like, oh, are we done yet? Or, no, we got to get to December. We're seeing this through. But I will tell you, when we started our fall, it was a dream. Yep. It was. That doesn't mean everything's perfect. You don't get wrenches and whatever. Don't hear perfection. But it was the shared family calendar. Yep. All he had to do was look. He didn't have to ask me. We didn't have to wonder where we're going. What time is it? What's the address? It was all right there. Yes. And we were able to pivot if we needed to pivot, to give somebody a ride or have someone pick up one of our kids. It was super easy to communicate those things. And it was really easy because I love him, but time management sometimes is a struggle because he says, oh, it's 15 minutes or, oh, it's once a month or, oh, it's once a week. Let's have these people over. And it's like, wait. Can we look at the last 2 weeks and how crazy it's been? And let's look at the next 2 weeks, how crazy that's going to be. This is our only night to be at home and look at our kids for more than 5 minutes. It's like, oh, okay. So that planning is that pivoting like you're talking about, and it looks different each phase of the year and each phase of life.
That's been huge though. The planning piece where we sit down, we do the calendar now regularly together. It's like, oh, wow. Again, you're making the invisible visible.
Yes.
You're like, oh,
I mean, I
we
always
have a lot of stuff going on. You put it on the calendar, you're like, oh, we have a lot of stuff we're doing.
Mhm.
But we're active people. We do a lot of stuff. So
We do.
but it's a good
So,
thing. Go ahead.
how has this impacted homeschooling? Because I know you have like gone like a duck to water with the homeschool box.
Yeah, for sure. So I talked a little bit about this in the other podcast. I won't go too deep into it, but what it has taught me is how to separate the two. Because with homeschooling is a way of life. It's a lifestyle. You're immersed constantly in what you're learning. It's not just at the table from 8 to 3 with this book answering these questions. That's not what it is. I used everything. Like if we went to the local Bass Pro has an aquarium and we had passes, we might just be doing it because it's hot outside and it's something to do. By golly, that is science. And we are going to learn something new about some of these fish, or, we're going to touch a stingray. We're going to, so much of that is, you can get it woven together. And that was really hard for me to separate, but I did it. I can now these are my homeschool tasks, especially the administrative ones. These are my household home tasks. Even though we live here and we do school here all the time, it really has given me, and it gives me better leverage. So when I'm looking at homeschool things, it's just my homeschool things, whether I'm grading papers or tests, or we're looking forward at the next assignment, that's coming, versus I'm looking at bills, I'm looking at our home calendar, I'm looking at, I will say the other thing that helped, I mentioned it as well, is the kids program and the launch program. Having access to those. I learned so much from the kids program. We called it Lisa School, and we did it. We went through it. The things that I have learned through planning day. And again, I will say this, it's all encompassing. Like one little snippet, people have to understand, I have everything. I've done everything. I've listened to everything. So I've got this whole big global picture. I feel like I have your full schematic of what you intend to give to people. It's not just a single podcast. It's not just one planning day. It's not, it's the whole picture. But through that, I developed a planning day for my kids for school to sit down.
Oh yeah, this is so cool. I forgot about this.
Yeah. So we did a day about a year ago. I just did a day. We looked at time, how many hours you spending, what are your routines, let's add it up, blah, blah, blah. And it really was eye-opening. It didn't mean that everything went perfectly. They always followed the schedule. They were always productive. Not true. But it was a language. It was a foundation, a place to return. Well, I took that to the next level this past January, and I did what I called Student Success Week. And each day we spent a couple hours on a separate category. I posted all the days in the app. If somebody wants to go and read it, fine. But we looked at time one day. We looked at their resources one day. We looked at the academics one day. We looked at your personal, which is spiritual, physical, and passion projects. And just bringing those things in. What do you have? What do you need? What sport do you play? Do you need new shoes? Do you need, it's the blitzes, when you start looking at all the blitzes, which we talked about in the other podcast as well. It has profoundly impacted homeschooling. So I do homeschool my last two differently than when my other two were at home, and it was all four. With all four of them, I was a little more eclectic. I picked and chose curriculum. I did a lot of things from scratch. We participated in various co-ops throughout the years. We ran a couple of our own co-op groups, for a season with certain themes behind them. But with these other two, we joined Classical Conversations, which is a community that meets once a week. There's a curriculum involved. The assignments are laid out. The books are assigned. All of that is kind of already done. So what I'm allowed to do then, it's much like a college class. It's like they get their syllabus at the beginning of the year. Now we have to step back and let's break this down. So to write this 5-page paper in 8 weeks, what do we need to do first? In order to be ready with your memorized speech, what do you need to do? So it's teaching them the skills of back up, break it down. I couldn't have done it as effectively if I hadn't gone through the planning days that I had gone through, because it helped me look at time differently. and helped me show them their time differently. Again, invisible stuff, making it visible. My son in this student success week, I said, how long do you think it takes you to do your morning jobs? Oh, 15 minutes. So I'm like, okay, write it all down, every single thing, write it all down. How much does this take? How much time? How much time? And he wrote it all down, added it up, 45 minutes. And I'm talking brush your teeth, go water the cows, there are a bunch of just little jobs, but his time awareness was expanded at that point. So I would say that's where it has helped me be more effective, more routinized, passing on to them those routines. They have their own Sunday basket. They have a launch binder. They do not come to me and say, Mother, it is time to do our Sunday basket. I have not done that in a week. That doesn't happen. It is, guys, we're going through them, which, let's be honest, there's not that much stuff in there, but it's getting that, like, this is where you can contain, Mom, where's my, I put it in your Sunday basket. Where's my physical form? I've got to turn it in for the next sport. Oh, that's yours. That's in your binder. Like, you go get it, so.
And the thing
Would you add anything to that?
Yeah, I was going to say from my perspective, what I see different is then when I come home from work at 6 o'clock, that there's more of a cadence and a routine. It's we're not looking for stuff. School stuff has typically been done before I get home, instead of it kind of just being a 24-hour process, because you've done life, you've done school. I'm serious, because because it is a lifestyle. Well, you did this other home maintenance project, or you did this this other thing that wasn't school, and so here you are at 7 o'clock doing math, and so that takes away from our family time. If Junior's doing math at 7 o'clock, which I get, public school, you got homework, you got to do that at night, but that's one of the pluses of homeschooling, is you've got the daytime all day long to get your schoolwork done.
They should,
with your teacher. Yeah, they should.
They
should.
don't
Sometimes
always.
They don't.
I had one son that we only did math at night because that was his best time to do math. That was my oldest son. So that's also good flexibility. And we're not home every night at 6. We're in this season, depending on the sports season.
Sports.
We don't meet up at home. We're going to meet up at a field or at a stadium or at a theater. So we are still very much in that active, because our kids are active with theater and sports and things like that. So,
but definitely that planning piece, so that the kids, you've defined school, and then you've defined, life outside of school, and find balance between the two, so that they're done during the time frame that the expectation is, okay, we're not doing that after 6 o'clock. We're doing theater, we're doing football, we're doing baseball, we're doing these other things instead of school at that time. So,
and has this changed or impacted the amount of impact that your family is able to make in your community?
Yes.
So that's
the short answer. That's the short answer.
So that's, again, we talked about it before, but that confidence piece that has changed in Rhonda. So it's allowed us to do, we've been married for 28 years and hasn't been perfect. But we are married. We're not divorced after 28 years.
Yeah.
And we still like each other. And
most of the time.
Yeah. And we get along well. And so
that's just truth.
It's just, So, but it's helped us, the tools that we've learned with organizing and communication skills and knowing each other, being organized and planning. Now we have some margin, and we can go talk to our peers. We can go talk to them about their marriages, their relationship with their kids, and being able to take what we've learned from you and share it with other people to make positive impacts, hopefully in their families as well. So
I think you hit the nail on the head, though, because if your home is chaotic, you don't, all you're doing is spinning your wheels the whole time. You don't have the energy, the mental capacity to pour into somebody else. It's the oxygen mask scenario that we moms have heard forever. Put your own oxygen mask on first before helping someone else, right? That's what they say in the airplane. And the reason that is, if I'm not wearing my oxygen mask, I can't possibly help somebody else. We have had some major life, unexpected family events occur in our family the last couple of years. And if it had not been for a lot of the things that we had set in motion, or that I had set in motion and you were coming along, we could not have had the capacity to be, on call, walking with them, being there at a moment's notice, the unexpected moment, the phone call late at night, or the getting in your car and going to somebody because of a situation. We could not have done that and still maintained home, relationship with our younger two that are still living at home. And then, each other, especially.
Because it's the
capacity.
Yeah, that capacity piece. Because what we've seen, what we're seeing in our peer group, those people that are homeschooling, they've been married for 25 years. We have close friends that it's breaking our hearts, but they're getting divorced. They're coming to the end of their homeschool journey. One friend of ours, it's a public school, but we literally have 4 couples that we know, have known for years and years. Their kids have graduated, they've left the house, and mom and dad get divorced.
Or they're close to that. They're close to that.
And so we've tried to walk alongside them and talk to them. And so we've really made that kind of a ministry, a calling that, man, we need to make people aware of what's going on. We've started having that conversation ourselves about what are we going to do when the kids are gone, when it's just, when it's just you and Greg, all your kids are gone. What does that look like? You got grandkids, and so that's going to help have them back in your house. But it's happening, and it's heartbreaking to see. And the way that ties back into Organized 365 is your house is more organized, your life is more organized, you have more margin, and it allows you, I think you say this all the time, it allows you to do, what God uniquely gifted you to do.
Look at that.
So
I know you're getting an A+. That's all I have to say.
That's all on his own. All on his own.
But it's true.
It's so true.
We all are gifted to do something, and you are gifted very much in this organization space. And you talk about the home organization, but your home is a business. And you talk about people leave the home space and go to the business space.
Yes.
Well, your home is a business,
right?
And so you have to manage it. We
all have to call it home economics.
Home economics, right? Yeah.
All we did was make biscuits and sew an apron.
Yeah, we all have income. We all have expenses. Your balance sheet. Your income.
Yeah,
it's just.
I think speaking, he kind of bridged into talking about marriages and that impact is that as we go through life in the survival phase, especially I'm going to speak to women who are moms. We can lose ourselves.
Yep.
We can lose our identity in our kids and our husband and our home. And that's great. Like I am replaceable everywhere else in this world, except in my kids' lives, Casey's life, and in my home. They can replace me teaching, doing whatever. That's fine. I learned that the hard way. That's a whole other story. My pride was whatever, but I am not replaceable in those places. And it's great to be in that place when you're in that survival mode, but we forget. Casey and I even talked yesterday, and he was like, we don't get in the pink. We stop dreaming.
Yep.
We stop looking at we literally are just surviving. And sometimes it doesn't feel like we're doing it very well. There's a lot of drowning, being swept up by all of the things that come at us with kids and culture and life and all the responsibilities. But I think that we don't dream anymore. We don't talk about it. Like imagine yourself and we've started having these conversations probably 3 or 4 years ago because we saw some things slipping away between us. And we're like, no, that is not an option. We are not going to let a foothold, happen that is going to pull us apart. We got married before the kids got here. So there's obviously something there that they didn't
be
bring
when they're gone.
Right. And we're going to be there when they're gone. So I think we can sometimes depend too much on our kids, too much identity in them. And I love my kids. We are heavily involved, clearly. but we forget that we are a person outside of that.
So, yeah, so you asked about the community and how we're how does Organized 365 help us to impact that? And that is a big deal. And just a little thing I'd like to add about that is as these, basically the moms are doing most of the home organizing, I'm assuming. Dads are watching that happen. So all the ladies that are watching this, and maybe you're wondering, how do I get my husband more plugged in, or how do I get buy-in from him? Without too much detail, I'm just going to say that one of the perks that comes out of this whole home organization thing, Rhonda's like, what the heck is he going to say?
What is he getting right?
Yeah, but she's nervous. But because you have margin, because you have, you're not having all this stuff in your head, because what do? You teach them to what? Write it on a 3x5 card, put it in the Sunday basket, right? You got those cards. I love that, because that's what was happening to Rhonda all the time. We've got our card, write it down, drop it. Because before that, it was just in her head all the time. She, there was no space to think about anything else. She was trying to keep all these balls in the air. So I say all that to say that one of the things that's happened is she has time to think about us. She has time to think about me, so that, so again, ladies, if you're looking for some buy-in from your husbands, there's a physical intimacy perk to this whole thing, is that, her mind isn't wrapped up to Lisa's.
Listen.
And now we got to go to a commercial break. We don't even have commercials.
Everybody's embarrassed now, but you did, you ladies have all that stuff.
It's true. We're trying to get this to-do list done that is never ending. And we're just running and running and running to where? Where are we running to?
No, it's true. It's true. And I would just encompass all of that with just being able to relax and turn off the brain. I told the story about the pixies and Harry Potter and the other podcast. You can go listen to that story. That's exactly what it is.
Yes.
It's a swirl, and it never stops, because we know there's all this stuff. It's why I've never been good at taking naps, because as soon as I lay down, my head hits the pillow. It's, I should be, no, rest, dump it out so you can rest, so that you can invest, in the relationships that matter.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's just a perk for you ladies if you want to, hey, how to get buy-in from your husband.
There you go.
There's a tip.
I will say, men like to be listened to and paid attention to.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
We
we all
like
do.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we have to take care of the kids. And so Greg is very excited that he is now back on the totem pole. He still says he's below Hunter, but anyways, he's like, it's Grayson, the kids, the dog, me. That's what he always says.
I can relate.
Yeah. And I think it's just communication. And we're so busy trying to make sure that we don't drown, that we don't have time to just talk.
Yeah. And so that's the huge takeaway, is when you get your house in order, you have some margin, and you can thrive in life instead of.
It's true. That's a great way to put it.
That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Anything else you guys wanted to add before we close out?
Are you sure you want to ask that question, Lisa?
I have no more details.
Have we gotten through all the notes yet?
Did we get through your notes?
We did. We got through all my notes. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, go ahead. No, you go.
No, I was just going to, again, back to that pink / pocket, that idea of your marriage and the dreaming part, the planning, be proactive, ladies, get your husband, Rhonda, we spent a day just planning, an overnight. We have the luxury of my mother-in-law has a cabin, and we go plan, and talk about it. And, it's great, because we're not just surviving. We're thinking about, what does this look like? What is our home? What is our marriage? What does our businesses look like a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now? And
yeah. And I would say that just remembering that it's a journey and it's a process. It's not an arrival. Now, don't get me wrong. we have seen some definite benefits and bonuses that is a good positive trajectory that we're just going to keep going with. But I would say, just remember to be a safe place. I say this to the wives and the husbands. So if either one of them are struggling with getting rid of things, be a safe place and have grace with them. Even if it's put it in a box, label it to look at in 3 months and it goes on a shelf or whatever. Just learn about one another. Why is this important to you? Ask the questions. You know, what is it about this that's difficult and a struggle? And then have that grace with each other moving forward. Starts with ourselves. Have grace with yourself first, which you say all the time, and it's one of the things we've talked about. And then what was I had to wrap up.
I don't know. I was going to say, ladies, if you're on the fence, buy the Sunday basket. It'll just do it. That's all I could say.
There you go.
Oh, I don't know if I can afford it. Yeah, you can't not afford not to do it.
It's true. It is the catalyst that starts the thinking in the process. And I would say those
You're
of you
invested, go do it.
Those of you with small kids, you know, maybe you can't relate to where we are because of our phase of life. Get someone to watch your kids and do a planning getaway with your spouse. It's worth it, even if it's hard and it feels like it's more work to be gone than it is to be home, because it always is when you have small kids. It takes more work to prepare for you to be gone than it is for you just to stay home yourself. Doesn't matter. It's the one thing that you can put time into, your future self will thank you for. And don't just do it once and wait 5 years and do it again. Do it a couple of 3 times a year for sure to be on the same page.
And all you old people out there like me and Rhonda, volunteer to keep those kids.
That's right.
We have these little ones that come over so that the mom and dad can go plan and
have overnights.
Their marriages can thrive. Be invested. That's it.
That's so great. So great. Rhonda, how can everyone find out about you and the services that you offer?
Okay, so my website, my business name is Show Me Organizing Solutions, because we live in Missouri. So it's showmeorganizingsolutions.com. I'm also in the app just by my name. I love being a fellow learner and productivity. I don't know that I'm not an expert. I'm not a guru either. But anyway, I'm working on it. Yeah.
You're a subject matter expert.
Well,
yes. Subject matter expert. I love it.
Matter expert.
Do you know what the definition of an expert is in the court of law? You just have to know more than everyone else in the room. So I'd say everyone who listens to the Organized 365 podcast is probably an organization subject matter expert in your community.
Oh,
so
I think I have my master's degree in it now.
There you go. See, I'm just saying. You guys, thank you so much for this gift of your time, the investment and being prepared for the interview and the candidness with which you spoke and shared stories. I know that this will really impact so many. And if you have a spouse like I do that is never coming on the camera and also never going to do a planning day, it is still beneficial for you to do the planning day for yourself, because once you know what you want and you need, then I sneak the questions in. So I'm like, Greg, and I'll like throw a planning day question out there, and then I just listen to the answer. And so it just takes me longer to get the information back to plug into the plan. You know how to do this. Like, you guys know how to do this inside of your marriages. Don't not plan or not dream because you can't find 4 hours or your spouse won't sit down and do it with you. You make the change in you, and you will be amazed how your family comes around and changes as well.
So true. Thank you so much. This was so fun.
Thank you, guys.